home where the dead live.
Welcome to another special October episode of The Wandering Crow. Today, Abbey sits down for an interview with someone who's had an up-close and uncomfortable encounter with a poltergeist. Do enjoy. Welcome to a special episode of The Wandering Crow. I have a good friend here named Jim, and he has an encounter that he's going to share with us today.
Well, I'm homegrown from Tacoma, Washington, 1974. I'm vintage. If I was a car, I'd be classic. Grew up in Tacoma, North End, Highland Hill Golf Course area. Went to Stadium in Wilson, now Silas. And that's my childhood and teen years up until about 17, and then moved out to Gig Harbor. And then hated it and ran back. But I grew up a child of the late 70s and 80s. So last generation to actually go out and buy fireworks and free-range children. Just got to be home by the streetlights coming on. If the streetlights are on and you're not home, you're in trouble. My mom would just... not my mom, every mom. They would just step out the front door, yell their child's name. They would be heard. If you could not be heard, then that means you are past Pearl Street and now you're in trouble. There was nice little pockets of wood so you can, dirt bikes, play war, build forts, because there's also construction going on every summer. So, I'd always make friends with the foreman, and I'd take his scraps. Take anything from here and any bent nail you find on the ground. So we were free cleanup, building tree houses. It was dope. I was going to Wilson High School, and then Stadium had a really great art program, and I was very much into art. So I transferred to Stadium because we had an open district. And I didn't need parents' permission to do it. Because I was 16, so I could just transfer. So I did.
Wow.
That's what I told my mom. I moved schools for a girl.
Okay.
Yeah, and it was a girl I dated in junior high, and I never got the girl, but it's fine. So first day of school, 5th period, I go into choir, and I look around, and nobody's there with long hair. They're all a bunch of preppy kids.
Oh.
Except one kid who didn't quite have long hair, but he had a leather jacket. They're like, okay, I'm going to go sit next to him. And that was Gabe. Gabe was a redhead. Captain Brillo pad hair.
Wow.
So he loved it, loved my hair, because when I headbanged, my hair would move and his just wouldn't. But he was in the same situation I was. It was like, oh man, bunch of preps. And so we just sat together, started talking, and we've been friends ever since. He got me into punk rock. I'd never listened to punk. I was, a hard rock metal, but the mainstream. And the house that he lived in, he'd moved in there when he was 12. So he'd been living in that house maybe 4 years.
Okay. By the time you met him, he lived there for 4 years.
Yeah.
You provided that address to me, and so far the only thing that I've been able to find about the house is that it was built in 1911 by a prominent architect of the time, Luther Twitchell. He built it and lived in it himself, and I know that he didn't die there.
That's very interesting, just because the interior of the house, it is gorgeous.
It's a Tudor style. Tudor? Is that how you pronounce it? Tudor. It was inspired by English homes.
Yeah. When you go into the interior of it, with the moldings and everything, it kind of screams craftsman. It screams craftsman.
Okay.
But with this house, it is much more. It's just gorgeous. It's very rich. Because there was a library in it, and meaning there was a bookshelf built into. Gorgeous stained glass in the library, and you had these little sitting sun areas in little corners. It was gorgeous. I was familiar with the stairwell, and that's as far up as I was allowed to go.
Okay.
So, the house is built on a bluff, and it's built down into the ground. First floor is ground level, and the basement is completely buried. Whereas, when you walk around to the side of the house, you walk down the steps, park your car, you walk up the steps, up the bluff to the front door. Oh, big entry, 2-door house. Walk in. Straight ahead of you is the stairwell going to the upstairs. And then underneath the stairs is the library. To the right is the living room and then a sunroom with fireplace. And past the library is the steps to go down to, by that time, the finished basement, because it was fully finished and you could live there. And that's where Gabe's room was. Even when his parents weren't home and it was just me and Gabe, he was like, no, we are not going up there. He tried to keep it a secret as best as he could.
Keep what a secret?
What was there? Quite literally, I have had paranormal experiences in the past in that, or at least my family has, in that when my grandfather died, the night he died, I, my sister, and my 2 cousins, we all had a dream of him coming to us to say goodbye. We didn't know he died, but all of us had that dream. And when I woke up, my mom woke me up and she was going to tell me, but before she could tell me, I said, I dreamt about Grandpa and he said goodbye. And she started crying and it freaked me out.
Yeah.
So that was a spiritual experience that I had. My grandmother's house was slightly haunted. I wouldn't say it was haunted, but it was visited. Her mother lived in the upstairs, and she had died in that room. And either on the anniversary of her death or my grandmother's birthday, it would be one or the other, but it'd be once a year, she would hear her mother call her from the top of the stairs. My grandmother's name was Patricia, and she was like, Pat? And she was like, yeah, Mom. And that would just be the everyday thing. So then a year after she died, Pat? Yeah, Mom. And then she'd realize what she had said and what had happened. And that would happen every once in a while.
So that's your own personal history growing up. Yeah.
So
in Gabe's house, he was trying to keep something a secret.
Yeah. The parents lived upstairs. He had a few sisters. Their rooms were upstairs. His room was upstairs for the first couple of years. And then when he hit about 15, so about, I don't know, maybe 6 months or so before I met him, he'd asked to live downstairs. Gabe and I have been friends for a couple months. It's about late October, early November, something like that. And he invites me over. For the first time, me and a bunch of friends were all going to stay the night. And for me, it was kind of like getting to know the gang. I'd known Gabe pretty well. I'd met Rick like a couple times, once or twice. But so I was like, yeah, cool. So I come over. And so we all hang out downstairs. Now, the downstairs, when you go downstairs, just to your left is the door for the basement, the outside, and then the bathroom. And then if you kind of go to the right a little bit, you could walk into this alcove, which was storage space. You go all the way to the end, on the other side, another alcove, which Gabe had taken that as his bedroom. On the wall behind you, if you go all the way past the stairs, there is a door, and then there's a room. And then there's another door and another room. Now, both those rooms were just storage, and they were all cluttered. But that back room was the original where the furnace or coal furnace was. And there had been a coal chute, and that's where there was a pit, and which had been since boarded over. But there was a pit with coal, and you just shovel the coal into the furnace. That's all that room was. By the time I got there, the furnace was removed. The floor had sturdy plywood over it, and then just shelving. But that was not the case when Gabe moved in there. When Gabe moved in there, the previous people, they just used the coal chute as their own, garbage. There was rebar coming out of it. There were dead Christmas trees coming out of it. It was just this cluttered mess. Roger, his dad, had it cleaned up and then boarded up. So it was a safe place. Because otherwise you could fall and get impaled. Anyway, so we all hang out that night in Gabe's room, in this little alcove. And we decided to go out. We go to second time around. We'll grab some records and stuff. We go get some pizza, and sodas. We all come back. So we're just kind of roaming around. During that time, we then stopped and we're kind of messing with this kid. You know those teenagers that are all they'll lie about anything to be cool? One of those. So he had told us that a roving gang was they're out to get him, and he'd been warned that he was going to be beat up and maybe killed that night. Nobody ever believed this kid. So we're out roving around. So we decide to bang on the door, bang on the windows, and then run just to scare him. And so we do that, and we're all laughing and run back. This also is important. So we come back, and then the phone's just ringing when we get there. And it seems like the gang was here. And it was us. And we're like, oh, you should call the police. Smart kids, please call the cops on us because we did it. So we're all hanging out. Now, there's Gabe's oldest friend at that point was Mark. And Mark was kind of hinting at stuff. And Gabe kept telling him to shut up. It's like, Mark, shut up. You're being dumb. Stop. Mark, just stop. Shut up. You're being dumb. And that's all we kind of like, okay, weird. And Gabe's dad kind of hollers down at us going, hey, we're going to go out for a few minutes. You know the rule, but it won't be long. Okay. The rule meaning we couldn't be in the house if the parents were home. That had changed over the years, but at that time, that was the rule. So no upstairs and no kids in the house if the parents aren't there. So we had to go outside again. And so a bunch of them split off. They went somewhere. I think there was someone's house to get some tapes. And some VHS tapes to entertain ourselves with. But Mark and I are just sitting on the curb waiting for people to come home. And I'm looking up. And this woman on the second floor in the window opens the curtain, peers out, closes it, walks on. I'm pissed. I thought you said nobody was home. Mark's like, nobody is home. It was like, no, someone's home. I'm like, no, the Buick, their car's gone. Gabe's parents aren't here. I just saw his mom look through the window. It's like, no, you didn't see that. That was a cat. A cat doesn't have fingers, Mark. He's like, no. It's like, Mark, I saw a woman. And he's like, it's fine. And then like minutes later, as I'm arguing with Mark, as he's essentially, there wasn't the term gaslighting then, but as being gaslit, Gabe and Rick and everyone come back. And then like 2 minutes after that, Gabe's parents, and I see Gabe's mom get out of the car. So as we're going down back to the basement, I was like, dude, did your grandmother live here? It's like, my grandmother, I don't have any grandparents. They're all dead. I was like, well, who was upstairs? And he just looks at me, looks at Mark. Mark kind of going, I was like, I told him it was a cat. Yeah, it was a cat, Jim. I was like, and now I'm having the same argument again with someone who wasn't even there. So we go downstairs, and I was like, dude, who was upstairs? We didn't need to leave. I'm pissed. And now everyone's going, we didn't have to leave? What? So Mark was like, Gabe, you should tell him. Tell us what? I was like, just tell him, Gabe. He's like, I don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about it. I'm like, what the heck? Now, we're in an alcove. So you have wall, entry. So on the wall here, and then the entryway. Around the corner of Gabe's room is an armoire. Big 7-foot oak armoire up against the wall. And we're facing Gabe. Gabe's sitting on the bed facing us. We're facing out. So we can see Gabe sitting on the bed, and we can see the armoire behind him. And Gabe finally relents. He's like, okay, I'll tell you. The armoire moves. It just shakes and moves. And Gabe went, what was that? And we're 7 of us. And all of us just point. And he turns and looks. And we're like, oh my God.
You have to tell him. You have to tell them.
And that's when we find out that the house is not just haunted. It is massively haunted. There was an old woman who lived upstairs. And I believe she had died in that room. That room was Gabe's bedroom. So, but that woman would often walk the hall and, go in. And what she would do, she would walk down the hall, go into the room, look out the window, turn around, leave the room, and disappear. That was her pattern. That was the first thing that I ever saw was that. And then, then the thing moved. And that was the second thing I saw. It was a very wild weekend. But we had found out that when we died there was a child that was hit by a car in the 20s that had been brought into the library and laid down and died. When he first moved in, he was like 12, and he doesn't know anything about the house. Nobody knows anything. And so him and Mark are hanging out, and he's showing him like upstairs, downstairs, down in the basement, and they go into the pit room. The first thing Gabe ever saw was all of a sudden he had a vision of Mark impaled on some rebar that was sticking out of the pit. 12 years old, just given this vision. So that is why I talk about that pit. And we're told that was the first thing that he saw, and that there was a lot of kind of dark energy coming from that area. One night when they're all having dinner, Gabe, he had like 3 sisters, parents, they're all sitting at dinner, and they all see this person just appear in the room, and like, what? And they all watch it vanish. About 20 minutes later, Roger, his dad, gets a phone call that his brother was hit by a car. Okay. And in the basement, there was a specter that would come out from the bathroom, down the hall, walk into where the armoire was, and vanish. Like, you could hear it, like water droplets on the carpet. You could hear it coming. You would see her. She was blonde in a blue dress. Sometimes you just hear the water droplet, but you'd always hear the water droplets, and you'd sometimes see her.
Okay, I'm not trying to be rude,
no,
but I am going to say, how do you hear water dropping on a carpet?
It was just, I don't know, it was thick plush carpeting, like 70s. I mean, 2 years ago, my roof was leaking, and I heard because I could hear water droplet on the carpet.
Okay. So, all right.
I do know what it sounds like.
All right. So, well, it's good to address that, because I know other listeners are probably going to wonder.
Well, when Gabe was about 13, this old man came to the door, and Gabe happened to be in the living room and wanted to talk to his dad. And so Roger comes to the door, and he's like, "Hey, I used to live here, and do you know about this house?" He's like, "What about this house?" And so, like, again, Gabe had been there for about a year or so. And, like, that's how we know that the little girl died there, but, that there was an old woman that had lived upstairs, believed to have died there, but they at least know that there was one that had lived upstairs.
So rewind for me for a moment. So a person just out of the blue comes to the house to share the history of this house and say, I used to live here.
Yeah, previous resident.
And basically he's just saying, I thought that you should know as a courtesy.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Partly as a courtesy, partly wanted to know, like, hey, has anything been happening?
Are you experiencing things, or was it just me?
And
that's fair.
Roger just blew everything off. He never discussed it. He was too grounded for anything like that.
Did they do anything to confirm?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
Now, in the 70s, there was a couple that did. I don't know if they owned the house or lived there, but what had happened was that there was a voodoo totem painted on the wall down in the basement, and which Gabe had saw, like, that's weird because his dad painted over it, and it still kind of bled through a little bit. Well, Roger has this nice big oak armoire. Perhaps there was voodoo being practiced there.
Okay.
Which would make sense as to why furniture moved there, why there was a specter making a beeline for it down in the basement, and would also make sense to me why so much of the poltergeist was focused downstairs. He told us there's this time where he heard wind downstairs in the basement in his room. And he was like, what? And that he turned on the light, and then all of a sudden, all of his posters were on the floor. But they weren't where they were hung. So the posters were off the wall, rotating. That was the wind that he heard. And so, so that's kind of like as much of the history as I really have on it. But the story does not end there.
So those are his experiences. Those are
he tells
what
us,
we know about the history.
He tells us all this.
Everything.
And we're just like, oh my God. And we're all like 15, 16 at the time.
Yeah.
So now Gabe was like wanting to discount the armoire moving. He's like, oh, it was probably just, and I can't remember the name of the kid. Andy. Andy was the kid we pranked. He was like, oh, it was probably Andy. Like, he knew it was us, and he was just banging on the wall. I was like, Gabe, the other side of this wall is earth. No one's banging on the other side of this wall. But you must have been banging from upstairs. Like, it would not reverberate down and then out like that to move the... It's heavy furniture, and it's carpet. So, we go, look, there's the indentation of where it had sat. A good 2 inches. But it came out like a door swing. Like, it was pushed on one side, because the other side... It was still in the divot. And it took 3 of us to push it back. So, one, of course, it definitely moved because we saw it move. And Gabe's just wanting to discount everything. I think part of it is that, like, he just didn't want to deal with it. Because you're 16, you're going through your own stuff anyway, just being 16. It's hard enough being a teenager, let alone teenager in a haunted house. But there was just no discounting it. There's no... anything. Now everyone's going, let's see the pit room. Let's see the pit room. It's like, no. Let's go. It's like, and Mark's like, let's show him. And so he's like, fine. So he takes us back and opens the first door. And we're through this maze of boxes. And it's so funny to say it's a hoarder situation, because downstairs, like, if it wasn't Gabe's room, the rest of it was cluttered. Like, there was chairs stuck onto chairs. Like, you had to make your way through the walkway just to get to Gabe's room. It was a big storage area, because it wasn't really lived in until Gabe had taken over that one spot. So anyway, we walk into the first room, move around the boxes, walk into the second room, and I was expecting to see a pit. I didn't know that it was floored over. But I was like, oh, well, it's just, okay, you can see up in the ceiling where the furnace had the thing, okay. But it was all just masonry jars, and it was like a little fruit cellar, really. Like, all right, so everyone leaves, and I'm the last one to leave. And I push the door closed. And you have to, because the house had settled. So it's dragging on the floor. So, like, push, shove, latch. So we leave. Go to the next door, latch, go upstairs. We go about our night. And we're all kind of jazzed and freaked out, and a lot of adrenaline. Like, haunted house, damn. And so then we all go to sleep. They were all in sleeping bags on the floor and everything. And then I hear drip, drip, drip. And it's getting closer. And I'm like focused. I'm like, hey, guys, hey. And everyone's asleep. I'm the only one awake. And it's just, I hear it coming. And then it's just like 4 feet in front of me. And then it just stops. And I was like trying to rise, like, pipes? What? Is it raining? I don't. There's you look, it's raining. Don't get up. So that was the third thing that had happened. It was like, it took me a while to go back to sleep, because I'm just like freaked out. The next morning, I wake up to, I hear Gabe's dad yelling, guys, breakfast, making bacon. Who wants pancakes? And we're like, oh, we all kind of wake up, and his dad was great about making breakfast, and we all gorged ourselves. It was good. Most everybody left. Gabe's mom left. Gabe's dad was outside, I think, mowing the lawn or something. So it's just like me, Mark, Gabe, and Rick. And then Rick goes, let's go to the pit room again. We're like, yeah, okay. And Gabe's like, no, guys, come on, stop. No. We're like, oh, pit room. And so we all charged down. And like I said, the whole area was cluttered. So I had to walk around these 2 stacked chairs, turn my body to get to the first door, open the first door, and then the second door was straight ahead. But again, you have to walk around stuff. So Mark's trying to make his way around. I'm looking for a light switch. I was like, where's the light? I can't find the light switch. Where's the light switch? And Gabe just reaches around the corner and goes, flick. It was bad enough that something happened. But the fact that it was a fluorescent light, which always strobes when you turn it on,
Absolutely.
made it 10 times worse.
Oh, God. How classic.
Yeah,
Okay, so you're in a basement,
flickering a light,
strobe, yeah.
As the door just opens. That was latched. Just And I just go, the door! Mark panics, and he's bouncing around all the boxes, breaking jars. Rick, who was in front of me, turns, rushes past, and falls into an open speaker box. It's just a cardboard box, and then it closes on him like a coffin. Again, I'm the only one facing straight ahead, and I see something. And it's just this blackish purple cloud that's just churning and folding in on itself. And then it plunges. I turn around with my eyes closed. I take one step and I jump because there's two chairs stacked on top of each other. And the ceiling's kind of low. It's not 6 foot. It's about 5'10". This is how high the ceiling is. Maybe 6 foot, but still. A couple chairs stacked, you only got a 2 foot clearance. So, what Gabe sees is he hears Mark crashing around. He sees Rick fall into a box. And then all of a sudden his new friend Jim is flying because I take one step and I jump and I clear and I bend down and I hurtle over these chairs off one step. That's adrenaline. So, and I feel my toe catch one of the chairs. And then all of a sudden, there's nothing. And I'm just encased in this white light with a blue hue. I don't feel anything. I'm not walking. I'm not floating. I'm not flying. I'm not falling. I'm just enveloped in this white light with a blue hue. And I just go, I must be dead. And then it's gone. And I'm on the floor. I don't remember getting to the floor. I have no sensation of being on the floor. I just kind of then come out of it and I'm on the floor crawling, trying to get away for about 2 seconds until I realize that I'm on the floor and that nothing is touching. No monsters got me. And I just turn and we all start cracking up. I mean, it was like the scariest thing that had ever happened in my life. And just, I guess I could have started crying,
right.
But just with the adrenaline and everything, I just started cracking up and laughing. And get the hell out of there. They were like, all right, that's enough of the pit room. We go upstairs. And so that was the full 4 events in under 24 hours.
Wow.
And anytime Gabe asked me to come over, I did.
So in that 24 hours, the lady pulling back the curtains, was that the same day? Okay, yep. The lady pulling back the curtains, the armoire moving.
Yes.
This apparition, what is the for? Is it the door open? Oh, the water dropping. Oh, yeah, as everyone else is asleep. Oh, man.
Yes.
24-hour period. So you were talking earlier about this kid that you messed with. Are you thinking that it was karma or something?
No.
Why did I feel like that?
No, this was going to happen regardless.
Just because he ends up referencing that, trying to explain away. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
The armoire moving. Okay.
So, but, and I think Gabe's biggest fear is that no one would want to come over and he'd be alone. He never really said that, but I think that.
Yeah.
So I kept going back time and time again. Some friends who then, because I can't keep a secret, told all my friends who would then later on meet Gabe, and then we would all be friends for a long time. Like, some of them never saw anything, but everyone knew about it. But anytime Gabe asked me to come over, I did. The simple fact of like, well, I wouldn't want to be left alone in a house like that. At least I can be there as some sort of sense of comfort. Although I don't know how comforting it is having a kid terrified at every little noise. Because something.
Did you guys ever make a big deal about going to the pit room again, or
I never stepped.
You left it?
Never went back there again. Ever again.
Oh,
you could not.
We
drank
choice.
a lot.
Smart decision.
Yeah, there was a lot of teenage drinking in that basement.
Oh yeah.
Especially after that, I'm like, well, if a ghost is gonna get me, I'm gonna snookered.
Oh yeah.
So that wasn't the only event that ever happened there. It was a really different experience being in that house versus than, the experiences I or my family had. The way that I kind of see it is that It's one thing to be visited by a spirit. It's another to go to a home where the dead live. And that's the way I've always kind of viewed it or felt about that house.
That house.
There was years later, this time I was like maybe 17, so about a year and a half later, it's just me and Gabe hanging out, and I go to tell him about how my grandmother was visited by her dead mother.
Okay. The calling of the name.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And, Gabe again, sitting on his bed, I'm just kind of lying on the floor, and we're just kind of talking. Gabe had a total punk rock heavy metal bedroom decorated. One of the things he had on the wall was a Ouija board, nailed to the wall.
Always a good idea if your house is haunted.
Sure. Why not? Well, I mean, if they're already there,
they're already there.
And which was kind of a middle finger to the dead. Is why he did
sure,
that.
Okay.
But then underneath it was a 2-foot speaker. So I'm telling about my grandfather, and then I start to talk about my great grandmother and my grandmother. I said, the anniversary of her death, thud. And now Gabe's looking at me the way we all looked at him a year and a half earlier. And I go, what just happened? It's like, the speaker just jumped from the wall. What? The speaker just jumped. Like, at me? He's like, yeah. And I turn, and there's a speaker that had been sitting up underneath a Ouija board. And I go, lift it up, and it is a little more than a foot away from the wall.
Wow.
Yep. I said, all right, well, this house. And sorry, you might have to edit that. Sorry. But I think that was the last thing that ever really had happened there. There was a painting on the stairwell that always felt like the eyes were always looking at you. It's this Red Baron. Not the Red Baron, just, like a French Baron or something. Big feathery hat.
Yeah.
But it always felt like his eyes were always on you, which was unsettling into itself, especially when now the house is haunted. Maybe he is looking at us. Maybe his eyes do move.
Could be.
Yeah, that's the house. Roger eventually sold the house, want to say in 94, might have been 95. Gabe's like, there's a couple things, so he wanted to go back, grab a few things left. I'm like, okay, great. And so I went back with him, and I could have gone to the third floor. I chose not to. And he did bill it that way. He was like, hey, Jim, want to go to the house one more time? I was like, sure.
Let's see.
Didn't go downstairs. I went up to the first floor landing and the steps, because steps went like this and then like that. So I went to the landing, and that was as far up as I went.
Wow. That's riveting, and I cannot wait to try to dig into the history some more. I think we'll find stuff. Do you know anything else about the gentleman that stopped by to share with them that he also experienced things in that house? And
no, he just wanted to know if anything had happened. The way it led into it was, how's the house?
Yeah, okay.
And then he just unloaded on this history of all these things that had happened, since the house was built.
Wow. What a great story, and how horrifying. Honestly, that would be really horrifying. I can absolutely understand people's adrenaline just spiking and the amazing things that you could do, i.e. hurtling over 4 foot tall stacked chairs. Step. Yeah, just like pew, like a cat. I love it. Yeah. Oh man. So Gabe is still around, yeah?
Yeah.
Do you guys ever talk about it?
Every once in a while.
Yeah. Do you know if his sisters had any experiences that they were willing to accept? Or did they try to brush things off too?
I talk to him every now and again, at least once a year. I never even thought to talk to them about it. Like I said, there was that one time where they were all at the dinner table and the apparition appeared. They were really asked. I think I was
right.
too involved with my friendship with Gabe and what he experienced, and then my own experiences.
Yeah, that's fair. That's totally fair. Well, okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you sitting down with me and sharing this story. And I will keep you posted, and I will probably add on a follow-up regarding any history that I can find on that house. I'm very, very interested in being able to confirm whether or not people did die in the house.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tedious process, though. Anywho, thank you. And this has been a very special episode of The Wandering Crow.